They sat her on the patio, outside. While they raised champagne flutes under crystal chandeliers, they gave her a folding chair, next to the hydrangeas. They said she wasn't business-minded enough. Too soft, too quiet, too invisible to matter. But what they didn't know was that the girl they dismissed was silently building a $7.2 billion tech empire. And on the night they toasted each other's success, her helicopter landed, not to attend the party, but to sign a deal that would change everything. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about reclaiming power without shouting. It's about what happens when the so-called family failure becomes the one who owns the building they tried to keep her out of. She didn't just prove them wrong, she redefined the game. So if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or pushed to the side, this story is for you. Because sometimes the best kind of power is quiet, and the sweetest revenge is owning the table and the room they swore you'd never belong in. "We've put you on the patio, sweetheart," my mother said with that particular smile, the kind she wore when wrapping an insult in velvet. The Fairfield Hills Country Club was glowing that evening. Golden hour poured through the windows like it had RSVP'd, and the staff scurried about with precision only money could train. Inside the main dining hall, the long tables sparkled with crystal, gold flatware, and the reflection of carefully curated ambition. "It's just that your brother and sister have a lot of business to discuss with Dad," she continued, adjusting the pearl clasp at her neck. "We thought you'd be more comfortable out here. No pressure." I glanced past her, through the French doors. There they were. Ryan, suave in his navy brioni suit, holding court about his latest real estate win, a luxury property flip that netted a cool 8 figures. Vanessa, draped in fire engine red, laughing as she shared details about her new collab with a European fashion house and her upcoming TED Talk. I pulled out my chair on the stone patio, the quiet click of the metal legs against tile sounding lonelier than it should have. "We just want everyone to feel celebrated tonight," Mom added, tapping twice on the water glass in front of me as if that would make it champagne. I gave her a small nod. No need to argue, no need to defend. I'd learned long ago, some battles aren't worth the bruises, some are won in silence. Vanessa peeked out from the doorway, holding her glass. "Shar, you look comfortable," she said with a smirk. "You've always been the low-key one in the family." Low-key, a cute way of saying invisible. I smoothed the fabric of my simple black dress. Custom-tailored, minimalist, quiet on purpose. Not like Vanessa's dress, loud, dramatic, screaming status. Ryan chimed in over his shoulder, loud enough for me to hear. "Charlotte's still doing that tech thing, right? Coding or consulting or whatever it is people do with laptops." A few chuckles. Someone muttered something about tech girls and startups that never start. I didn't flinch, didn't even blink. Because in my purse, my phone was buzzing, 3 missed calls from my executive team, 1 urgent message, board assembled, final terms approved, CEO requested ASAP. Outside, the breeze picked up. The tablecloth fluttered against my arm. No one noticed. They were too busy raising glasses, toasting themselves. And that was okay. Because just beyond the treetops, a helicopter was slicing through the sky. And it had my name on it. To them, I was just the youngest. The one who never quite figured things out. The one who colored outside the lines, missed Sunday brunches, and never really seemed to want the spotlight. They had boxes for each of us. Ryan, the real estate golden boy. Vanessa, the fashion mogul with magazine spreads and a mile-long client list. And me? Charlotte? Oh, she's doing something with computers, I think. That's all I ever was to them. A girl with a laptop and a vague dream. I let them think that. I let them laugh quietly when I wore flats instead of heels. I let them nod politely when I mentioned I had a few meetings to take. Because silence was easier than trying to explain what it meant to build something the world hadn't seen yet. And because I knew, one day I wouldn't have to explain anything at all. While they were busy trying to be impressive, I was building something powerful. Lunaris Technologies, a company I founded, a company I bootstrapped, nurtured, and protected like a fragile ember in a storm. No funding from Dad, no connections through Ryan's golf buddies, just grit and sleepless nights, and a vision no one else could see. We were days away from finalizing a $7.2 billion acquisition, a takeover that would shift the future of machine learning. And nobody at this table had a clue. I reached into my clutch quietly, checking my phone beneath the tablecloth. 3 missed calls, 1 urgent text in bold. Boardroom ready, final terms locked, CEO needed immediately. My thumb hovered over the screen for a moment. I glanced through the glass doors where Ryan was bragging about his latest development project. Vanessa was showing off her watch to a friend, explaining it was limited edition and not available to just anyone. My mother leaned across the table, whispering about a senator she met at a gala. No one looked my way, no one ever did. And that's what made this so perfect. Because the more they looked past me, the more I built quietly behind their backs. Because while they invested in being seen, I invested in substance, in value, in longevity, in legacy. And tonight, that legacy was arriving in less than 15 minutes, by air. I slipped the phone back into my clutch and folded my napkin slowly, like I wasn't sitting on the edge of something enormous. I looked calm, because I was. Let them toast themselves. Let them believe they were the stars. The real shift was coming, and it had my name on it. At first it was just a hum, barely noticeable under the clinking of silverware and the clatter of wine glasses. Someone inside laughed too loudly at one of Ryan's real estate jokes. Vanessa leaned closer to a local news anchor, flashing the same dazzling smile she saved for red carpets. No one paid attention to the sound, except me. Because I knew that hum. I'd heard it in test runs, on rooftops, in rehearsals we never talked about. It was the signature low rhythm of precision, of momentum, of arrival. I sipped my water slowly, just as the hum grew into a steady thrum, then a full-bodied roar. The champagne flutes on the dining table vibrated, napkins rustled. Someone stood, squinting through the windows. And then, it descended. Sleek, black, impossibly elegant against the Connecticut sky. The Lunaris Tech insignia gleamed along its side like a declaration. My family stared as the helicopter touched down on the lawn, the same lawn Ryan once said wasn't zoned for anything disruptive. Too bad. The blades slowed. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was stunned. 2 figures emerged, black suits, sunglasses, radios in their ears. Not just staff, not just security. These were people who walked into rooms and made things happen. They walked right past the startled guests, right past the country club manager and his clipboard full of rules, and stopped exactly at the edge of the patio. The taller one removed his sunglasses and looked directly at me. "Ms. Hayes," he said calmly, "the acquisition documents are ready. $7.2 billion. Pending your signature." That was the moment. That precise second. When glass slipped from Ryan's fingers and shattered on the floor. The champagne soaked into the imported rug, slow and quiet, just like the realization sinking into his chest. Vanessa's mouth opened slightly. She didn't speak, didn't blink, just stared. My mother reached for the back of a chair, her knuckles white, her composure unraveling in slow motion. I stood, tucking my clutch under one arm, my black dress catching the breeze with poetic timing. I turned toward the security officer. "Thank you," I said simply. "Please have the contracts ready." Then I looked back at my family, at the table that once rejected me. Ryan finally found his voice. "Charlotte, you're the CEO of Lunaris?" I gave him a smile, not cruel, not smug, just truthful. "That little tech thing you all used to laugh at? Yeah, that one." No one moved. Because how do you clap for the sister you banished to the patio, who just landed a billion-dollar deal in your backyard? The silence inside the dining room was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It wasn't awkward, it was seismic. The kind of silence that doesn't just fall, it lands, hard. My mother stood frozen, still gripping the back of her chair like it was the only thing holding her upright. Vanessa hadn't blinked. Her wine glass remained suspended midair, forgotten. Ryan just stared. I took a step forward, heels tapping gently against the polished floor, and faced the room. "If anyone's curious," I began, voice calm but certain. "Yes, I'm Charlotte Hayes, founder and CEO of Lunaris Technologies." The words dropped like stones in a still pond. Ripples of disbelief spread across every face in that room. Ryan's lips parted slightly, his expression somewhere between confusion and denial. Vanessa finally set her glass down, her fingers trembling just enough to make the stem rattle. "No way," she whispered, as if saying it louder might make it less true. "Wait, you're that Charlotte Hayes? The one on Forbes last month?" I nodded once, letting the silence breathe. "That little startup you all ignored?" I said softly. "Yeah, that one." The look on Ryan's face, a man so used to winning the room, was something between a cracked mirror and a child realizing the magician's trick wasn't a trick at all. "But Lunaris just bought Hayes Development," he said, eyes narrowing. "That's our firm." I smiled. "Was your firm," I corrected gently. "You didn't know it, but it was on the verge of collapse. We finalized the buyout 2 weeks ago, through a shell company. Your books were messy." He blinked, like he'd been slapped without sound. My mother stepped forward now, her voice brittle. "Why didn't you tell us?" I met her eyes, not cold, not cruel, just honest. "Tell you?" I echoed. "Like when you told your bridge club I was still finding myself? Or when you told Dad I wasn't cut out for the family business? When Ryan told investors I was wasting time in tech?" No one answered. They didn't have to. The truth was echoing louder than any apology could. "You thought quiet meant failure," I continued, "but all this time I was building something real, while you were busy trying to look important." One of my team members approached quietly from behind. "Ms. Hayes," he said, "your CFO has arrived. Final contracts are in hand." I nodded, eyes still on my family. "Excuse me," I said smoothly. "I've got a few $1 billion waiting on my signature." And with that, I turned back toward the patio. Not as an outsider, but as the owner. Not the girl they underestimated, but the woman who rewrote the legacy, while no one was watching. It didn't take long. By the time my helicopter lifted off from the lawn and disappeared into the golden Connecticut sky, the floodgates had already cracked open. The first message came from Vanessa, sent from her phone at exactly 9:04 p.m. "Hey sis, I've been thinking, we should totally revamp your image. You know, polish your brand. Maybe even style you for the Forbes shoot. Simplicity is so last season." I read it once, then again. The same woman who mocked my boring dress over brunch last year now wanted to curate my public presence. I didn't reply. The next came from Ryan. "We should schedule a call. I have some ideas about expanding the real estate arm under Lunaris. Think, sustainable development meets tech-forward innovation. You and me, strategic synergy." Synergy. He spelled it wrong. I stared at the screen for a moment, then forwarded the message to my assistant with a one-line note. No response. Archive. But it was the third message that made me pause. Not because it surprised me, but because it was so predictable. "Charlotte, it's Mom. Just wanted you to know. I've always believed in you. I'm sorry if it didn't seem like it. Families don't always say things the right way, but that doesn't mean we don't feel them. You've made us proud. I hope we can talk soon. Love, Mom." No mention of the patio, no mention of years of condescension disguised as concern. Just a retroactive blessing, written in soft tones and half-truths. I tapped the screen, held my finger down, and filed it under a folder I'd created earlier that night. Too little, too late. It was getting full fast. Vanessa sent a follow-up an hour later, this time with a screenshot of her new outfit ideas. Ryan sent a PDF labeled Hayes Ventures X Lunaris Concept Pitch. My mother sent an old photo of me at age 7, sitting at the kitchen table with my first computer. The caption read, "You were always destined for more." And maybe I was, but back then, none of them had cared to see it. Now they were all squinting into the spotlight they used to mock, trying to catch a reflection of themselves in my glow. It was strange, not satisfying exactly, not in the way I thought it might be, just quiet and fitting, because that's how I'd built it all, quietly. No applause, no fanfare, just nights no one saw, risks no one believed in, and a woman they didn't think was capable, until it was too late. I closed my laptop gently. The city lights below me sparkled like the wine glasses they'd raised hours earlier. But I wasn't looking down on them. I'd simply outgrown the table they never offered me a seat at. It started with a simple phone call. One call to my real estate acquisitions team. One line of instruction. Make an offer on the country club. Yes, that country club. The one where they sat me outside on the patio while my family toasted themselves under chandeliers. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about pride. It was about reclaiming a space that had once whispered, "You don't belong." Now, it would speak a different message, one I wrote myself. The negotiations didn't take long. Apparently, the club had been in quiet financial decline for years. Too many appearances, not enough substance. Sounded familiar. The deal closed within a month. Clean, strategic, silent, just the way I liked it. And when the official papers arrived, stamped with my name, I sat in my office, sipping tea, watching the sunlight hit the gold seal across the top. Owner, Charlotte Hayes. I didn't announce it, didn't post it, didn't even tell my family. Not at first. I let them find out the way people like them hate most, organically. The first clue came when Ryan tried to host a networking brunch there and got a politely worded email about new ownership guidelines. The second came when Vanessa showed up for her monthly charity luncheon and noticed that the Founders Hall now featured a different name on the plaque. And then came the new policy. Effective immediately, no more seating hierarchy, all members are equals, value speaks louder than placement. It was subtle, but sharp, just enough to sting, without drawing blood. Within 24 hours, the story broke. CNBC. The quiet rise of Charlotte Hayes, former family underdog, becomes powerhouse tech CEO and club owner. Forbes. From patio to penthouse, how Charlotte Hayes rewrote the rules, $1 billion move at a time. Bloomberg. Hayes acquires Fairfield Hills Country Club in private deal. She now owns the table they once denied her. My inbox exploded. Old classmates, former colleagues, even that distant cousin who once called me socially awkward at Thanksgiving. Suddenly I was inspirational, a symbol, the American dream, in black stilettos and a power suit. But I wasn't chasing symbolism. I wasn't chasing applause. I just wanted to own the narrative, own the space, own the moment. The same club that once told me I was better off outside now served cocktails under my roof, on policies I wrote, in rooms I rebuilt. And when I visited that first afternoon, stepping onto the newly landscaped lawn, I paused right there, on the edge of the patio. The same stone I once sat on, alone, forgotten, underestimated. I looked out at the tables and smiled. Because the girl on the patio? She didn't just get a seat at the table. She bought the whole damn building. The group text came in on a Tuesday morning. I almost didn't notice it. Buried beneath a flood of investor updates, legal clearances, and 2 media interviews was a notification from a thread I hadn't seen in years. Hayes Family Business Strategy Group. I blinked. That thread had been created back when Ryan first pitched the idea of keeping the family legacy strong. At some point, quietly, discreetly, I'd been removed from it. Probably around the same time they decided I didn't fit the brand. Now, here it was again, buzzing on my screen like it had a right to be there. The message read, "Emergency meeting tonight at 7 p.m. We need to discuss the future of the Hayes Enterprises. Charlotte, we need you." No apology, no context, just, "We need you." I stared at the message for a few seconds. It wasn't anger I felt, or even satisfaction. It was clarity. They finally saw it. Not the headlines, not the Forbes covers, but the power, the influence, the quiet authority that had grown in the background of their loud, curated lives. I opened my calendar, fully booked for the next 11 weeks. Every day stacked with boardrooms, vision briefs, stakeholder dinners. I tapped the keyboard gently and replied, "Please schedule through my assistant. I may have a slot open next quarter, on the patio." I hit send. No emojis, no elaboration, just a gentle reminder of where this all began. The responses came fast. Vanessa. "Haha, okay, message received. But seriously, we're hoping to reconnect and rebuild. Can we talk?" Ryan. "Let's put the past behind us. There's real potential in collaborating now." My mother sent a voice note I didn't open. It was too late for them to rewrite the story. Because I already had. I wasn't the outlier anymore. I was the one who'd outlasted the noise, outthought the plans, and outbuilt the legacy they thought they were preserving. They'd built a name, I'd built a future. Now they were asking to sit at a table they once told me I wasn't dressed well enough to approach. I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel smug. I felt grounded. Because when you've learned to lead from the outside, no invitation holds power over you. And when you've owned the patio, you never have to ask for a seat again. The view from the 60th floor of my Manhattan office stretched all the way to the river. Skyscrapers shimmered in the early morning light, each one a symbol of ambition, risk, and power. I sipped my coffee slowly, reviewing the final numbers from our latest acquisition. Another deal closed, another quiet victory. A soft knock at the glass door. My assistant leaned in, professional as ever. "Vanessa's downstairs," she said carefully. "She's holding a Chanel gift bag and a handwritten card." I raised an eyebrow. "Same one she told me was aspirational for my income level 2 Christmases ago?" My assistant smiled. "Looks like it." I turned back to my screen. "Tell her I'm in meetings all day, but if she'd like to leave the card, I'll have it filed." 5 minutes later, my phone rang. The name on the screen, Dad. I let it ring twice, then tapped speaker. "Charlotte," his voice came through, strained and low. "We need to talk about the future of the family business." I paused for just a beat, letting the silence stretch. "Which one?" I asked. "The one I built while you all laughed, or the one I saved from your collapse?" There was no response, only breath, only weight. "We underestimated you," he said quietly. "Yes," I replied. "You did." Another silence, this time heavier. "But we want to make it right," he added. "Come back in. Help us lead. Help us grow." I looked out the window, at the city pulsing below, alive with energy, with movement, with everything I had built on my own terms. "You see, Dad," I leaned back in my chair, voice steady. "Success doesn't sit at the table waiting for permission. It owns the entire building." He exhaled softly, the kind of exhale that sounds like surrender. I ended the call without another word. There was nothing left to say. An hour later, a news anchor on Bloomberg read out the morning's headline: "Lunaris Tech finalizes global deal, elevating CEO Charlotte Hayes to one of the most powerful women in tech." The clip went viral, but I didn't watch it. I was too busy reviewing proposals from Asia, too focused on the next chapter, the one where I continued building, not for recognition, not for revenge, but because I could. That night, an invitation arrived at my apartment, a family dinner, at the country club I now owned. At the bottom, in gold-embossed lettering, "Head of the table reserved for you." I smiled, and sent a single-line reply through my assistant. "Thank you. I'm unavailable. I'll be too busy, buying another building." In the end, Charlotte didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Because real success, it doesn't beg to be seen. It simply shows up, undeniable, unstoppable, and often unexpected. Her story reminds us, you don't have to fit the mold they built for you. You don't have to fight for a seat at their table when you have the power to build your own. Let them laugh. Let them underestimate you. Let them call you quiet, soft, unqualified. And then, let your work speak for itself. Because the loudest kind of victory is the one they never saw coming. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt like the outsider, like your voice didn't matter, like you were meant for more, then share this with someone who needs the reminder. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that speak to your strength. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we remind you, your silence isn't weakness, it's power, waiting for the right moment to rise, and when it does, the world will notice.